morning, it's Mrs. Nelson, and this is our last piece of Unit 3, which was transportation and respiration. So as we get through respiration, you're going to see that these two pieces are really hard to tease apart, which is why your curriculum included them in one big unit. I broke them down into kind of three pieces. Part A was blood, Part B was circulation, so that's our transportation system, and this last piece is our respiration, or our respiratory system. So this goes with pages 6 and 7 in the new booklet that you either downloaded from Teams kind of in the last couple of days or picked up at the school. If you haven't picked one up, they're there for you. If you responded to the survey before yesterday at 3:30, they're personalized with your names. If not, just grab one of the extras. Okay, let's get going. So your overall function of the respiratory system is to exchange oxygen and carbon dioxide with the external environment, so that's the outside kind of air, and your internal environment, so that's inside your body. So what we're going to see is as we breathe in, we're going to see that inside our lungs, inside our tiny air sacs called the alveoli, is actually open to the outside, so that's kind of considered exchanging with the external environment, even though it's happening kind of inside our body. So there's different types of respiration. So there's breathing, external respiration, internal respiration, and then you've probably heard of cellular respiration. So we're going to talk about those things. So breathing is that basically that act of breathing in and breathing out. So the process of inspiration, which is the fancy science word for breathing in, and expiration, breathing out. You might have heard the words inhaling and exhaling, same idea. So the whole point of breathing is to get air to travel into the lungs and back out. So once we get the air into the lungs, we can carry out the different types of respiration. So external respiration, this is what's actually happening inside your lungs. And I know it sounds a little bit counterintuitive because it says external respiration, but this is the exchange of gases between air and the blood in the lungs. So as you breathe in, and we'll talk about the lungs, we'll talk about the structures and the organs in the respiratory system here in a second. As you breathe in, the air travels from outside all the way down and into these tiny air sacs called alveoli. So as we're inhaling that air, it's rich in oxygen. The oxygen's going in. The blood that's coming to the lungs came from that right side of the heart. That right side of the heart brought all that deoxygenated blood that was high in carbon dioxide back from the body via the vena cava into the right side, and then did a mini loop to the lungs to get rid of that carbon dioxide. There it is there, and we've kind of shown that blood as that blue color. So the carbon dioxide will diffuse out, and oxygen that's in these tiny air sacs will diffuse in. Now that blood is red. It's going to go back via that pulmonary vein to the left side of the heart. So again, that's why this transportation and respiration system are really hard to pull apart and include it in one big unit. So external respiration, that's kind of when we're breathing in, the act of exchanging that gas between the air that we've inhaled and the blood in our lungs. So it goes into those capillaries that surrounded all those air sacs. Internal respiration is now that we have that oxygenated blood and it heads back to that left side of the heart, it's going to get pumped around the body. So that internal respiration is the exchange of gases between blood and your tissue fluid or those individual cells of your body. So it gets pumped via the left side. That rich oxygenated blood gets pumped via the left side around your body and heads to every cell in your body. That will exchange the oxygen, will head into the cells, and it'll pick up that carbon dioxide that the cells have made. Now the cells are making that because the cells are all carrying out cellular respiration. So this is what makes our energy in our body, right? We breathe in oxygen, and again, we're eating sugar in the form of glucose. I'm sorry, my stylus isn't very good. And at those cells, we're making carbon dioxide, water, and energy, or ATP. So ATP is that kind of formula that that energy that our body can use. It's our energy currency. So cellular respiration is all of those chemical reactions needed to break down and metabolize carbohydrates, that's your glucose, and transfer them into the chemical energy of ATP. ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate. So you have this molecule, here's your modified DNA base called adenine, and it's bonded to 2 phosphate groups. In your mitochondria of your cells, it goes through, your cells go through a huge process in cellular respiration, and it adds on this 3rd phosphate, and it stores the energy from your food in that 3rd bond. So as we require energy, it'll break that bond and release energy that we can use. This kind of goes above and beyond, but it's just a little connection if you choose to carry on in biology past high school. So if that confuses you, no worries. Just know those 4 different types of respiration. So our respiratory system has several functions. So its main function is gas exchange, right? Getting oxygen into the body and carbon dioxide out. It also warms or cools the air to the proper temperature, right? So especially as we're breathing in through our noses, our nose is rich in blood vessels. That's going to help to warm the air. Moisturizing the inhaled air for kind of humidity, right? We don't want it to be too dry. We have tiny hairs in our nose called cilia. We have mucus there, and that protects the body from harmful substances by coughing, sneezing, and filtering out. Or sometimes as our nose collects that mucus with those dust particles or whatever it is, we end up swallowing that mucus, or by alerting the body through the sense of smell. So our respiratory system functions to defend our lungs. So it keeps a lot of that kind of stuff out of our lungs with these cilia. So cilia are microscopic hairs that lining or along the air passages. So these are just tiny little hairs. Again, you can kind of see them inside your nose, and phlegm or mucus. So this is basically your whole respiratory tract is lined with this moving carpet of phlegm. It's sticky, so it collects dirt and dust and germs that are inhaled. So it collects them hopefully before they get to the lungs, and then it will kind of beat them out and either cough them up or swallow them before they get into the lungs. The last piece of the puzzle we're going to do today is we're just going to label the the respiratory tract here. So number 1 here, this is your nasal cavity. It would also be okay to say, you know, nose, nasal passages, something to that effect. Number 2 is your mouth, and again in the digestive unit we talked about it being the oral cavity. We're going to go down the left side here. Number 3 is your larynx or your voice box. So larynx is the proper term, voice box is kind of the common term. And I've drawn on that epiglottis. So when we talked about swallowing in the digestive unit, we talked about that little flap of cartilage that folds down over the trachea, and it folds down just above the larynx. So it's to protect that trachea when we swallow. Number 4, that's just a lung. So you have 2 lungs, 1 on each side. Okay. This would happen to be the right lung. You have bronchi. So you have 2 bronchi, but each one is called the bronchus. So we have our right bronchus over here. Down on the bottom here, we have our diaphragm, and that's basically a big muscle, and we'll talk about what that does and how it helps breathing tomorrow. I'm going to pop the page up so we can get to number 7 here. We go up to the top of the right-hand side. We have the pharynx, that shared passage for air and food, right? So that shared, oh, my stylus is terrible. I'm going to just erase that. Shared passage for air and food there. I'll get a new stylus for tomorrow. Then we have our trachea, that's also known as the windpipe. And again, we have the left bronchus, so that you have 2 bronchi. Each one is called the bronchus. Those bronchus or bronchi break down into smaller and smaller kind of tubes called bronchioles, B-R-O-N-C-H-I-O-L-E-S, and they end up in tiny little air sacs. You can kind of think of them like grapes, and those are called alveoli, A-L-V-E-O-L-I. hopefully that helps for today, and you can fill in those notes, and then I'm going to put an exit slip up here right away. Hope you're all doing well. Take care.